Hi, I'm Denise Dias from the K-State Research and Extension Johnson County office. And today I'm going to be making some recipes from our JoCoEATS website. These recipes are all designed to be easy, affordable, and tasty. So the first recipe we're going to start with is our cran apple crisp. So when you think of fall, you think of warm, comforting kinds of foods, and apples and cranberries, I think, are just a perfect combination. So let's get started on that recipe. 4 apples, and these were really large apples. So 4 apples into a big bowl, because you're gonna need it when you're moving the apples and things around. And a can of whole cranberry sauce. Doesn't have to be a brand name, just whatever there is available. And then that goes in too. Kind of a funny combination if you ask me. But we're gonna kind of mash this together and kind of toss them around. I probably didn't need all these apples, but that's okay. The apples will definitely cook down. So just know that, you know, if it looks like an awful lot of apples in your bowl, that's okay, because they will cook down to about half the size they are right now in the pan. So, thinking they're looking pretty good. The other thing about this recipe is you don't have to peel the apples. So much of the nutrition and vitamins are right there next to the skin and in the skin of the apples, so you want to preserve that as much as possible. Okay. Now this goes into an 8x8 pan. We'll see how much goes in there, right? And it's been sprayed with some cooking spray. Be sure when you're spraying your pan that you hold it over the sink when you're spraying it so that you don't get it on the floor, okay? That would not be a good thing to have you fall from overspray from your cooking spray. So we're just putting our apples into our baking dish. Carefully. And I'm trying to kind of get them to lay flat as I go. That way I can get in the most amount of apples that I can in this dish. Really looks kind of pretty with that red. And the apples that I'm using today are Honeycrisp apples. You can use just about any apple that you like for cooking. You know, I know traditionally we always thought you had to use a Jonathan or, you know, maybe a Braeburn or something, but you can use any apple except for the delicious ones. Red Delicious does not cook up well at all. It just turns to a big pile of mush. Okay, so I'm just gonna stop at this point because we've got plenty in our dish and we can get another little dish to put that in for a little side dessert for someone. So it's all in our dish. Let's go ahead and mix up our topping to go on top of our apple crisp. So this starts out with a cup of oatmeal. I like old-fashioned rolled oats. That's my favorite. You can use quick oats, whatever you have in your cupboard. That'll be fine. And then about 2/3 of a tablespoon of margarine that's been melted. We're gonna pour that in. That doesn't seem like very much, does it? But it doesn't take a lot for this recipe to make the topping. Then we're gonna put in some brown sugar. This is 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar that goes in. And last but not least, a teaspoon of cinnamon. And we'll take our spoon and kind of work this together. It smells wonderful. I wish there was a smell-o-vision or something invented by now, because it does smell great, especially with all that cinnamon on there. Okay, this is looking good. It's all mixed together and incorporated, and so now this is gonna go on top of our cranberry apple crisp. Now I know you're looking at this big pile of apples in here thinking, oh my gosh, she's gonna have a mess in the oven. Actually, probably not, because it will cook down, like I said, and it will definitely be below the edge of the pan when I get done here. And I'm just kind of being kind of careful about making sure every little bite has some oats on it. And that's it. Now that we've got our crayon apple crisp assembled into the pan, we're gonna go ahead and put it in the oven at 400 degrees, and you need to cook it for at least 30 to 40 minutes, maybe a little longer, depending on how many apples you have in your pan, and also, you know, how thick those apple slices are. I always like to check after about 30 or 40 minutes to see how tender the apples are. I'll stick a fork in or maybe a knife, and if they're not tender enough yet, then I let them cook a little bit longer, checking on them about every 5 to 10 minutes until they're completely soft and done. Our next recipe that we're going to make is cabbage roll casserole. Cabbage rolls have been made all over the world. Lots of different countries claim that cabbage rolls are, you know, started in their country. We typically think of them as being maybe a German dish, but actually we found out that you can find cabbage roll recipes from India to the Netherlands. So, you know, I think it's more of an international dish. But today's twist is a little bit simpler than the traditional rolled up cabbage roll. We're doing it in a pan with the same ingredients that you put into a cabbage roll, but doing it in a faster, easier way that's just as tasty. Is we're gonna go ahead and brown up the entire pound. I'm gonna turn this down a little so it doesn't burn. Okay, we're also going to add in with this our onion while this is cooking up. And that was a whole onion, a really, really big onion. So get all those little bits in there. I don't know about you, but I want to make sure I get all that in there. And then it calls for a clove of garlic. So you can use regular garlic. If you'd like, you know, 1 clove and mince it up yourself. You could also use some powdered garlic if you don't have garlic in your, you know, cupboard, or you can skip it altogether if garlic is one thing that really bothers you. So anyway, this is going to take a couple minutes to cook down. Now, a couple things that you can do. So that extra half pound of hamburger, you can brown it and then put it in a zipper bag, write the date of it, that you browned it, cooked it off, and then how much is in that bag and also what it is, so you don't forget what's in it. So then it can go in your freezer. You can keep it in there for probably, you know, 3 to 4 months easily. And if you have another soup recipe, or if you want to make tacos or sloppy joes or chili, you've got that already browned, ready to go. So we're going to let this cook a little bit more. The other thing, you know, this recipe does only call for half a pound of ground beef. And I don't know about you, but our family are a little bit bigger meat eaters. So if I was going to serve this at home, I probably would use the entire pound of ground beef to make it a little bit more hearty. But, you know, it's up to you. Without the extra half pound of beef in there, you know, calories run about 130 calories for 1/8 of a pot full of this. So, which is probably about, I don't know, a couple of cups would be my guess. It's up to you how you make it, you know, and that's kind of what these recipes are. They're designed to be easy, very affordable, tasty, and of course, you know, easy, affordable, tasty solutions so that you don't have to come up with, what am I making for dinner tonight? Okay, we're getting there. Our ground beef is almost done. I think we're looking pretty good here. So our onion looks really tender and is turning translucent. The hamburger, of course, is nicely browned. At this point is where you want to take out that extra half pound of hamburger and get it ready to put into your freezer. So I've taken out half of the ground beef. Now we're going to add the rest of the ingredients. So it calls for 1.5 cups of water, and that will kind of slow things down. And then a can of diced tomatoes, no salt. So I like to cook with no salt tomatoes because, for a couple reasons. I want to be the one that controls how much salt goes into my dish. And if I buy salted tomatoes, I lose that control. So I always buy no salt tomatoes. And then an 8-ounce can of no salt tomato sauce. That goes in. It's looking good. And then we're going to add our cabbage. This is a full head of cabbage that's been just chopped up into rough bite-sized pieces. Okay, this is going to be fun to get all this in. But the beauty of cabbage, it'll all cook down, right? So okay, everybody in the pool, right? I did drop a couple things on the stove. Okay, it's all in. And the last thing is 1/4 cup of brown rice. And it's the brown minute rice is what I've got here. The reasoning for that is you don't have to cook it as long. You know, so when your cabbage is done, it's done as well. So, and we'll move stuff around a little bit to get that cabbage starting to wilt in that pot. It smells so good. I wish you were all here. You could help us enjoy a bowl full of this. Okay, everything's done. We're ready to eat. So our cabbage roll casserole, which is really kind of a misnomer. It's not really a casserole. It's more like everything was made in the pan. It's done, ready to go, hot, steamy. I've garnished it with a little bit of dill, fresh dill, just to give it a little spark. But you could also add maybe a little yogurt or sour cream. Of course, non-fat, so you save some calories there. You could also, I read where one country used raisins. Maybe some golden raisins on top might be kind of fun. Or whatever, you know, your family likes to do. Or is traditional for, you know, your heritage. So cabbage roll, casserole, and then for dessert, we have our crayon apple crisp. So you can see it's perfect. The apples are nice and tender. Be sure you cook them long enough so if you put a toothpick or a knife or a fork or something in there, it comes out nice and soft. And then I did go ahead and add a little scoop of vanilla ice cream. That way you don't miss not having ice cream with it, you know, and you only need that little bit. So adding that small scoop of ice cream only adds an additional 100 calories. So that's not too bad, you know, in my opinion. You know, every food can fit. And of course, this meal is complete. We've got our meat, vegetables, we have fruit, we have whole grains from the whole grain brown rice that's in the cabbage roll casserole and the oats that are on our crayon apple crisp, and then dairy from our ice cream. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe and give it a try and let me know what you think, okay?